So again, thank you everyone for being here. I am going to introduce our speaker. We are so grateful to have Officer Bludworth here to share his story. A little bit of background about that. SCION actually was developed out of a presentation that Jeff does as a part of the official training for the crisis intervention training. He's also presented this same presentation to our peer support team, as well as the Citizens Police Academy, and I'm sure others that you can expand on that. But it is a personal story that he began giving to about his bouts of depression and experience with that on and off the job, as well as the strategies that he used to deal with it effectively and overcome it, maintain his employment, maintain his family life, all of those things. And because of that and the power of that presentation in the to the people he was giving it to, we decided that using personal stories is a really powerful tool, especially within law enforcement and first responders. And so that really was the beginning of this idea to utilize personal stories as well as information from mental health professionals to really try and help destigmatize all of these types of things and open it up for things like this, for questions with doctors, therapists, officers in the field, other first responders. You know, our last presentation was from a paramedic lieutenant from the fire department, and we are really looking to include other members from that community. So anyway, Jeff has been with us here at APD for the last 10 years. He is out of the 107 cadet class. He's worked in several different areas within APD as an officer. He was with the Crisis Intervention Unit for quite a while, and he's now a part of the Advanced Training Division at the Academy. And there is a rumor that maybe we'll be becoming a sergeant here very quickly. And so we are very glad and proud of him for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff now. And yeah, I'm very excited. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa, for that. Very well, nice, appreciative words that I am very grateful for. Yeah, I actually will be starting my Sergeant OJT coming up here very soon on Saturday. And so I will then be back out in the field. So I'm really excited for it. Like Melissa said, I started my career about 10 years ago. I actually started in 2008 when I was a police service aide. So I graduated high school May of 2008. And right after graduation of high school, I tested and became a police service aide for the city of Albuquerque. I remember having high school teachers and friends ask me if I was going to take like the ACT or SAT and things like that. And knowing that I didn't need a college degree to become a police officer, I told them no. And I did not pursue any other type of education after high school because I clearly that's what I wanted. I'm going to show 3 pictures, and these are essentially what my 3 goals in life were. My first one here, I hope that this actually pulls up. Perfect, it did. My first one is I wanted to become a police officer. Not only did I want to become a police officer, I wanted to become a police officer for the Albuquerque Police Department. I grew up here in Albuquerque, was born and raised. Loved and still love everything about Albuquerque, except for maybe a couple things here and there. But I loved what I did. This is me actually here at a community event. I was on bike patrol at the time, hence the beautiful shorts. This is about 2 years into my career. And so one of the funnest times that I had on my career though was being on bikes. But again, this was one of my goals in life. I mean, I had again 3 main goals, and this was the first one. My second goal was, oh, let's see, it didn't work. So let me try this again. Let's see, oh, hopefully I can get it going. How do I fix this? Damn, okay. And then I apologize, I'm really not good at Zoom, but my second goal was I wanted to get married. So I wanted to be married, and I wanted to be with a person that would love and care about me in all that I do. My wife is by far my best supporter that I have, and she has been by my side since 2012. Well, actually, since 2011. We were married in 2012, so I better fix that, otherwise I'll get yelled at later. But she adopted the love of the Lobos for me. And those that are out of town, the Lobos is the local college, University of New Mexico Lobos. And I love and I'm all about the Lobos, and my wife has adopted that as well. Thank goodness. It makes a lot for us. And my third goal in life was actually to become a father and to start a family. I feel bad because this is not a complete picture of my family as it is now. I have a 5-month-old daughter now, but when these pictures were taken, my wife was, we had just found out she was pregnant probably 4 weeks earlier. So, but these are the last pictures that we had. And so I accomplished my goals fairly quick out of high school. So again, I graduated in 2008. And then outside of graduating in 2008, I left the department in 2009, and I went and I served a mission for my church. I came back in 2011 and tested right away to get back into the police department and to start the Cadet Class 107. And that is when I started in April of 2012. And then I graduated of October 2012. In that time, I married my wife during the academy. Again, a great idea for my part was to be actually able to marry her, but probably not the best idea to marry her during the police academy because it added a lot of stress to my life. I'm actually still surprised, and my wife will attest to this, and I say it to her all the time. I'm actually surprised that we actually stayed together during those 6 months because I felt like I never saw her because I was so focused on making sure that I passed, and that way I would be able to provide for her and for my family afterwards. But I started again in 2012, graduated, and immediately began the career of wanting to do the best that I could and be active in all that I could. And so I hit the ground running and was involved in a lot of incidents really fast and tried to gain as much experience as quick as possible. In July of 2013, or I should actually say in July, or March of 2013, I bought my first house. And I have kind of several aspects of my life that I think attributed to where I am at. But the first thing was in March of 2013, I bought my first house, and I guess my only house. And that was the beginning of me living in debt. I could work a lot of overtime. I could work a lot, and I could make a lot. And it was just me and my wife at the time. And so I racked up quite a bit of credit card debt in the process of this as well, which we'll add to the story later. But that was my beginning of life of debt. And then in July of 2013, while I was still on probation, freshly off of on-the-job training, I think I had got off on the job training around March or April of 2013. I then was involved in my first officer-involved shooting. And at this time, I was 5 days past my 23rd birthday, and it's something that still affects me to this day, and I think about it quite often. But imagine being a 23-year-old inside of a new home. My wife and I are pretty traditional, so we didn't move in until we were married. So we were still learning each other's pet peeves and learning about each other on things that we did or did not like. And so a lot of stress in being recently married and recently moved in together. And then on top of it, you add a stressful job, and you add a officer-involved shooting into it really quick. I remember being told a couple times, hey, your grandfather was on the department for 27 years. Your sister at the time had been on the department for almost 10 years. And they never had to do what you had to do. And here you are, not even a year into the job, and the cards were dealt to you. And what a crappy situation, but you'll be okay. During the same time, kind of my family's life, or I should say my wife's family's life, her grandpa had passed away around that same time of my first officer-involved shooting. And so instead of taking care of myself, and also kind of just thinking, well, I'll be okay and I can just go right back to work as fast as I can, and being very naive and young, I wanted to focus a lot more on my wife. And if I could try to solve her problem, and not necessarily solve it, but if I could just be there for her, then whatever was going on in my life would clearly just eventually go away. So I went back to work fairly quick, and got back working and was excited to be back out. I then went into bike patrol, and that was that picture that you guys saw of me earlier, where I was on bike patrol and just having a blast. I was involved again in a lot of foot chases, primarily just because being on bikes, we surprised a lot of people as we came up. In that process, so this is in 2014 now, so about 2 years after graduating, I was involved in 2 incidents or 2 fights, one that messed my knee up, and then a week later, because I went back to work because I was so strong, I ended up getting my shoulder torn out of my socket, and being injured again. After that, I had to actually get 2 surgeries, and I had to have a knee surgery, and then right after I had to have a shoulder surgery. So it was very quick, back to back. Also during this time of 2014, I found out that my wife was actually pregnant with my second daughter, and I should probably scoot back just a little bit. In October of 2013, so after we had bought our house, pretty much the day we were moving into my house, my wife decided to tell me she was pregnant, and couldn't move any boxes. And so I was there to do it all by myself. And so we found out, and then in October of 2013, my first daughter was born. And then in August of 2014, so 9 months and 2 weeks afterwards, my second daughter was born. And so I had a whole lot of stress added to my life. I had 2 kids under 9 months old. I had 2 surgeries that I was about to have. I was already involved in my first OIS, and in the process again, right, being a young married couple. At this time, I was only 24 years old. I'm about to turn 25. I had a big legal battle. I shouldn't say legal battle, but I had a battle with our employee health to be able to get my injuries covered. So I had to fight with them and fight with workers' comp, and hire a lawyer. And in that process, a lot of the stress that actually came into my personal life came because of my choices at the beginning of my career. So like I said, in March of 2013, when I bought my home, we knew that we could afford it, but then I continued to add extra debt onto us because I got a credit card, and I felt like, well, I can just work extra overtime, and it'll pay for the credit card. And so I added a lot of stress into my family life by not being financially stable, which is a funny thing because that's typically what officers do. Is we know we can make a lot of money off of overtime, and it's always available. And so that's what we do. But I did not plan on never getting hurt because I was invincible, and I got hurt and I lost all that. And very soon afterwards, that started the process of debt collectors calling, and I actually ended up defaulting on a credit card, which caused a lot of problems, right, with credit. And then that's just a never ending battle. But just a lot of stress that was going on. But I was able to handle it, or so I thought I was able to handle it. But because of my surgeries and my injuries, I also then stopped being able to do the things that I really loved. And one of those being basketball. I used to love to play basketball. I used to talk a lot of smack on the court. Was not very good, but I loved to just talk whatever I could and play the game. It was a lot of fun. But because of my injuries, I was no longer allowed to play. just because took too much a toll onto my knees and onto my shoulder as time kind of continued. So I started to essentially do nothing to take care of myself. My stress relief would be I would come home, sit down and turn on the TV, and that was pretty much it. I would do nothing else, which kind of started this little spiral in my life. After my surgeries, I was then back out in the field, which I enjoyed, and I was able to focus all my energy at work. During this time of 2016 to about 2018, I was getting multiple awards for working with citizens or just hanging out with kids, doing a lot of community-oriented policing. I know that's one of those like little cop terms now that people are looking for, but something that I actually really enjoyed to do. I love to talk to people. If it hasn't been noticed, it's probably will be soon. I think that's kind of what got me in front of people teaching and speaking anyways, is because again, I like to be in the limelight. I like to be seen. I like to be noticed, but I also like to try to help out other people and try to bring a smile to others. I try to say funny jokes, but it usually falls flat because I have that weird dad humor, and so it usually doesn't go anywhere. But I got a lot of awards and a lot of letters of accommodation from citizens that I came into contact with during this time. But what I didn't notice during this time was how much I was lacking at home, and kind of what was going on in my relationship with my wife and my relationship with my two oldest. I could tell that we weren't as close anymore. Part of the reason why my wife and I got married, and I think that I won her heart over so fast, was because I made sure that she felt that love every time I saw her. I loved to have that human connection of holding hands and hugging and, the little kisses on the cheeks and things like that, right? I loved to bring home flowers once a week. You go down to the local supermarket, buy a rose for $2, and it doesn't cost a lot, right? And that affection is something that I loved to do and loved to be a part of. And I remember being in the academy and being told all of these things that you guys do now. You like your sports, or you like to go to like the International Balloon Fiesta here in Albuquerque, or the State Fair, or going to the Lobo games. Those things you will slowly but surely stop doing because you start to hate everybody. You start to see everybody and not trust anybody. And I thought about that, and I was like, that's not going to be me. I will always love to do what I love. And slowly but surely, I saw myself doing that. I saw myself not wanting to go out. I saw myself not wanting to talk to friends, especially not cop friends. Even some of the friends that I have that are part of the department, I remember kind of pushing away and not responding because I just didn't want to go out. And a lot of that too was towards my wife and towards my kids. It was easier for me to just let them go and do whatever activity they wanted to do. And I could either just stay home, or if I did go, I wouldn't be there actually physically. I would be there, or I'd be there physically, but I wouldn't be there emotionally. I just have that blank face that blank stare on my face. But again, this time, my personal life kind of was a little bit in shambles, a little stressful, a little crazy. But my work life was going great. Getting lots of letters, was getting a lot of experience and having a lot of fun. A lot of people liked me and were trying to get me to participate in different TAC plans and things like that. And so I felt like I was on top of the world because I felt like I was doing the one thing that was very important and providing. Was kind of all I cared about, was I can provide for my family and they can deal with the rest of the emotional part and they'll be okay. Fast forward to January of 2017, go to work again, just like any other day, and volunteer for a call that I always volunteer for. And it then goes turns very quick and turns into another officer involved shooting. And so very quick, when I'm 26 years old, and now I've been involved in 2 shootings. I've had 2 kids at this point. I'm struggling financially, trying to get out of that debt that I caused myself, and a lot was going on. But I figured, you know what, if the faster I get back to work, the faster I quit thinking about what is happening, I'll be okay. And I remember going to my appointment to talk to the clinician or the therapist after my second shooting. And I remember telling him, I'm a little nervous this time. I don't know what to expect because I saw myself kind of change and start to change. People have been saying that I'm changing, but I think I'm going to be okay. And I remember the clinician telling me, yeah, why don't you set up another appointment? Nobody will know about it, and just come and continue to talk. No one needs to know about it. It'll be fine. It'll be okay. But again, being kind of young, being naive to what depression was and anxiety, and kind of just like mental health in general, like and how it can actually affect you. I then did not set up another appointment. I was just like, yeah, screw that. I will be just fine. I will go and continue living my life. And that's exactly what I did. Went right back to work, probably less than a week after the shooting, went to a training and then went straight back to work. And something again, right, that I had to focus on and that I now realize I rushed back too fast. Also in 2017 though, I was awarded Officer of the Month. And so again, it just kind of showed my work was continuing to be very high, but my personal life was being very low. And then in 2017, I was approached to test for the Crisis Intervention Unit, in which I did. And that was kind of the beginning of this whole entire process of me kind of finding myself and getting myself back to who I used to be, of this approachable person that loved to have fun and loved to smile and loved to mess around. So I joined CIT late 2017. And during that time, I probably self-diagnosed myself with 20 different mental health disorders just from learning and from hearing other people, but never did anything about it, right? We used to have a detective that worked here. His name is Detective Lawrence Saavedra. And he would always talk about how you need to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. If you're not going to take care of yourself, you're not going to make it through 20 years. And then he would also explain how prevalent police suicide was. And something that was kind of a taboo subject for me and in my family was suicide, and specifically just mental health and depression. And so I never really talked about it, but I remember listening to Lawrence Saavedra several times mention that. And basically just said, screw it, not my problem again. I'm fine, my work is fine. And that's kind of what I thought. Once my work starts to fall apart, then I'll worry about taking care of myself. But I'm still being able to take care of my family by providing them with a paycheck every 2 weeks. So it doesn't really matter if they're not getting that emotional support that they probably deserve, or well, that they do deserve. They definitely deserve it, not probably deserve it. Got to watch my words. But the water kind of just kept dropping into that cup. And there's one more photo that I want to show before I move on to this next spot. But this is a picture of me, my wife, and my two kiddos. And this is kind of like in the middle of everything that was going on. This was before, I think this was before my second officer involved shooting. But pictures to me, they speak 1,000 words. And you see quite a bit that comes into it. The presentation that I typically do to the 40-hour class, there's a lot of pictures in it and a lot of other things. And I didn't want to put all those into it. But if you looked at the other photos that I had shown, you can see the true smile in it. And you can see that love and the affection that was kind of in there as well. But when you look at this photo, you can see I have this beautiful fake smile. I think everyone can see my mouse as I circle over it. But I have a fake smile on. I'm not really wanting to be there. I'm pretty disengaged. My wife, on the other hand, she has a smile on. She is trying to show that love and affection. We have two kiddos with us. This is my oldest, Lucy, and then my second is Kylie. But this photo hits me hard every time I look at it and I show this presentation. because I remember it specifically. And I was telling myself I wasn't going to get choked up today, and of course it happened. But here my wife is actively trying to hold my hand. I mean, she's grabbing at my elbow. And prior to the photo getting taken, I remember she was kind of grabbing at my actual hand. And I remember specifically pulling my hand and putting it into my lap so she wouldn't be touching me, because I didn't want her to feel connected to me. I just wanted her to know that I provided and that was all I needed to do. She didn't need to be connected to me anymore. So that way, if something happened to me, then she would be fine. She'd be able to move on with it because she didn't have that connection like we used to have. And there's a bunch of photos that come with this. Our friend took these photographs for us, and she did like a bunch of rapid shots, and you can literally just watch my arms start to go away, and then you can see me start to scoot a little bit away from her to get that distance. I didn't recognize it at the time. I just thought nothing of it. I was like, well, I'm holding my daughter, you're holding our other daughter. It is what it is. But the more I see it now, and the more I've kind of opened my eyes to what was going on, I recognize how this photo specifically shows how I was disconnecting from my family, and disconnecting from the ones that loved me and cared about me. And then not only did it do that to my family, but again, also to my friends, and to my immediate family, my parents and my in-laws and things like that. I'm actually one of probably the few that gets along with their in-laws. But again, I remember kind of just starting to push them away. But it just was a lot of drops in the cup, a lot of water drops. And then finally in 2018, my son was born. And then I had 3 dogs at the time. I had a Rottweiler, a Doberman Pinscher, and a German Shepherd. So probably the 3 dogs that you don't want around kids, but that were by far some of the best dogs that I've ever had in my life. And that includes all the dogs that I grew up with. But I had to end up getting rid of one of them because she bit me. She turned around and bit me as I was trying to keep her away from some chickens that we have in our backyard. So we had to get rid of her. And then one day my wife and I finally decided to go back out on a date. And when we went out on this date, my Doberman and my German Shepherd, for whatever reason, got into a pretty physical fight. And my Doberman killed my German Shepherd in front of my kids and their babysitter. It was a pretty graphic scene to come home to. And one that, again, just it rocked me to the core, and was finally the last straw on the camel's back, or the last drop in the cup, because I knew that I couldn't handle it, and I couldn't take care of my kids, because I couldn't take care of myself first, and I couldn't hide it. I was no longer able to hide what I had or what was going on. And I remember going to work the next day, and the clinician that we were working with when I was in CIT, her name was Terry Singer. I remember her kind of pulling me aside and talking to me about it and telling me, yeah, you should really go and talk to someone, and you should work this out. And I ended up talking to my sergeant, who was great at the time, loved everything that she's done for me. She put me on a good career path, but she got me an appointment essentially the next day to go talk to someone. And that was quite the experience for me. I was very nervous, to the point where I arrived 30 minutes early to my appointment. I talked to myself in like, yep, you're gonna go, you're gonna and do this. And you're not going to be that hypocrite anymore, where you listen to Detective Saavedra talk about taking care of yourself, and you are teaching that of taking care of yourself. We're not going to do that anymore. You're going to actually do it. You're going to go and take care of yourself. Go and express what you're feeling. So again, I was there 30 minutes early, talked it up. Talked myself out of going to that appointment. left, then talked to myself to go back in, and then back and forth. And eventually I ended up being 10 minutes late to my appointment because I kept going back and forth if I actually needed to go or not. So I did some therapy in that process. The person that I was talking to was like, hey, have you thought about medications? And have you thought about you're depressed? Like you have depression. And I immediately remember thinking to myself, I hate medications and I'm not taking medications. I'm one that even when I had my surgeries, I took my pain meds for 2 days because I just don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like it. I hate taking it. I hate taking like Excedrin and things like that just for headaches. I'm like, you know what? Just let me have some water, give me some caffeine, which is essentially Excedrin, but let me just not take a pill. If I don't have to take a pill, I don't want to take a pill. And so they ended up, I don't want to say they talked me into it, but they talked about the benefits of it. I talked to a couple people that were really close to me, and they're like, yeah, you can do it and you can still be a cop. Because that was one of the things I was concerned about, was if I start taking medications, is this going to affect my job? Because if it affects my job, then it's going to affect everything else in my life. You know, my wife is a stay-at-home mom, which is by far the hardest job that you can probably have, especially with my kids. My kids are awesome, but they're super rambunctious. They're 100% their dad, which is probably a good thing and a bad thing, depending on who you talk to. But if I didn't have a job anymore, what was I going to do and how was I going to provide? But talking to the right people, especially Dr. Rosenbaum, expressed how important it was that if you don't take it, how you're going to lose your job, because you're not going to be able to keep up. You're not going to be able to continue to provide or come to work every day and do what you were doing. You know, eventually, not only is it going to affect your family life, it's going to cross over to work life. And so I had great people coming to me, or well, as I was going to them and as they would come to me, help tell me and open my eyes and open my mind to being able to actually take medications. And so that's what I did. I started taking some depression medication, and about 4 months into it, started seeing myself get back to my usual self, which was awesome. I felt great, loved talking to people again, loved being around my wife, was showing her love and affection. And my life was still stressful as we were trying to overcome some of the debts that we had got into, and then also just trying to raise a family, and then also dealing with the stresses of work. But I was back to being who I was. I had a smile on my face and I was joking again. And I was like, I know a lot of people that are on know that I like to talk a lot of garbage. A lot of that garbage started coming right back, even more so, probably double fold. And because I was 4 months into it, I was like, you know what, I'm good. I don't need to take medication anymore. I got reset, and I'm good to go. So I quit taking the medication, just like I think a lot of people will do. So I was like, yep, good. And immediately, I shouldn't say immediately, but it seemed probably like a week later, I remember my mom and my wife coming up to me again, and basically telling me, hey, you're an idiot. You're starting to be stupid again. You're not talking to us. You're starting to be rude. You're not who you are. What is your problem? And it's like, well, I got off the medication. I'm probably just leveling out. And I didn't do that with any doctor's approval. Not that Nils is my doctor, but he's sitting here next to me looking at me like, what the hell? But I started to see that, but I basically told them, I'll be okay. Just let me level it out. And so for a few months afterwards, I turned back into the person that I kind of became, the disgruntled cop. Was upset a lot of things, was easily agitated. And my wife came up to me and basically told me, hey, if you don't start taking medication and if you don't come to some marriage therapy so we can talk this out and do this in a better way so we don't start both getting heated with each other and we can both have our voices heard, we may have to start thinking of different things. And to me, when I heard that, my thought was, and she told me that it wasn't this, but to me, it still is this, was the ultimatum of if we don't work it out, then I'm going to leave. Because she didn't need that, right? She didn't need to not have that emotional support. She didn't need to go through me being agitated or her walking on eggshells and things like that when I got home. And so I had to humble myself, had to recognize, you know what, I am starting to do that again. So went back to therapy, got on a new medication, one that I actually started using consistently, and one that I'm still on today, which is Wellbutrin, one that is great. It actually, I don't know, I love it. I am not a spokesperson for Wellbutrin, but if they want to, I will do it for them. But started pushing that and started doing some marriage therapy, and kind of got back on life and getting back to what my new normal was. In the process of all this too, I had to change some of my hobbies. Like I said, I used to love to play basketball. I used to like to run. Not that I ran like consistent, but I used to actually go out and run. I used to go to the gym, things like that. Wasn't the best, but I was a little decent at it. But because of all this, I had to change. And that's kind of where I got into a completely different hobby of raising chickens and raising ducks and raising turkeys. Completely different than what I've ever gone into before. Something that my family has no desire to be a part of. Not my like wife or my kids, but like my other families, my siblings and my parents. But it took my mind somewhere where I had to actually sit down and focus and learn and decompress off of it, which was what I needed. And you can see, you know, how much it changed who I was, and helped me actually become a better person for it. Some of the other things that I actually have started to do kind of on my own, but things that have also been talked about is like mindfulness, and trying to sit back once a week and I try to decompress and not think about anything. So that way I can try to focus on what do I need to, what is going on this week? Am I still myself, or do I need to go talk to someone? Is there something bothering me? What is it that's bothering me, and how can we resolve it? And then another big one was a sleep study. I felt like even though I was on my medications, and I had all my energy back again, and I felt like I was laughing and having a great time, it took a little while for me to wake up. It took me a while to get moving in the morning, to the point where I was like, this just doesn't seem right yet. And so with the help of Doc, I was able to get a sleep study done, where they found out, yeah, I have sleep apnea and I don't breathe at night. It makes a lot of difference when you have air going into your brain at night and you can actually wake up in the morning feeling refreshed. And again, it's funny because after about a week of using it, it changed my mind. It helped me just be more focused and more alert, which then helps me perform even better at work, which helped me then perform better when I was at home, and with my family, because I wasn't as easily agitated, wasn't easily upset because I wasn't tired. You know, there's a lot that occurred in this time. And in that time from 2008 to essentially 2020, when I had my sleep study done, was only 12 years. But in that 12 years, I had 3 kids, was involved in 2 critical incidences, started a career, started a family with my wife, defaulted on a credit card, had a horrible credit score, had to fix all that, reverse all that. Luckily, I'm out of it now and learned to be I shouldn't say I'm learned to be financially responsible. My wife has reeled me in and she keeps me financially responsible, but learned how to cope with the everyday struggles and the everyday trials of life. You know, there's so many other parts that I could easily hit on, but I want to leave time open for questions and for comments and things like that. But those are, you know, that was my life. I did not want to take medications. I didn't believe in depression. That's what I was actually officially diagnosed with, was depression. I didn't really believe in that growing up, or even kind of like as a young officer. I thought I was invincible, but those are things that I learned slowly over time, that I'm not invincible. Sometimes we do need help, and sometimes we do need to take medications, but that doesn't mean that you can't continue to be who you were, and continue to be the person that you want to be for those that are around you. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Y'all, I've opened up the, so you can unmute yourselves if you'd like to add a question or a comment, and you can also put it into the chat and I will read it out for us. But we'd really love to have you engage if you have something to share or ask Jeff or Dr. Rosenbaum. Okay, I'll start while people are thinking of it. Thank you, Jeff. Like I said, I've seen this before. You were kind enough to present it to the peer support team, and I see you in the CIT trainings and stuff. But I wanted to share, I hadn't thought about it before. I sort of had the same experience when I joined APD and really took on mental health as a career, right? Even though I'm not a therapist, it's been so impactful on my personal life to be in an environment that talks openly about this kind of stuff, and also to get up on like a stage in front of the cadets and be like, this is what you guys need to be doing. And then going home at night and being like, I really, not so much as a hypocrite, but like, I need to be looking at what's happening with me too, you know? And I've done that same dance of medication and then going off the medication and being like, I'm fine, it was great. I'm like, you know, like I just needed a reset, and then really coming to grips with like, that's not what's going on. So I hadn't really thought about the really positive impact that this job has had on my own mental health. But I mean, I really think that's part of what we're trying to do too, is being in these conversations all the time, like subtly, I guess, got into my head and made me look at my own life, you know, and that's been really helpful. So Mark DeBono would like to go ahead and ask a question. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Jeff, I'll go easy on you, brother.
I appreciate it.
First of all, congratulations, man. That's awesome making sergeant. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Good, man. Great presentation. Thank you for touching on sleep apnea, and that's an issue I had also. And I'm like, who the hell wants to sleep with a mask on? You know, you look like you're on Top Gun. And and that actually helped me mentally also with getting a better sleep. And like you said also in your presentation, I was dead against medication also. I'm like, there is absolutely no way whatsoever I'm going to take medication. If the job finds out, you know, they're going to take away my gun or they're going to do whatever. So in a long-winded way, thank you for being so transparent. And you are a true mentor from that story, brother. Thank you, man.
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Medication I think it's a scary thing for a lot of people, but I don't know. I hated it. Absolutely did not want to do it. But you know, that's probably been the one thing that I try to make sure that I keep up to date on, because I don't want to fall back into that same funk that I used to be in.
I had a question. So one of the things you said during your talk was that when you were on the medication, you were back to being yourself. And you also didn't want to start the medicine in the first place. And I think one of the reasons people don't want to start psychiatric medicines is they're afraid it's going to change who they are, change their core being. And that can come across as, I don't need that. This is me dealing with it. I can do it on my own. And that fear of it's going to change me and it's not going to be real. But it sounds like you had the opposite experience once you actually got on. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we did go to a marriage counselor, so that way we could resolve some of the little things that we were going through at that time. And she kind of put that thought of taking the medication puts you back to what your normal, oh man, like it gives you back all that patience and all the other stuff. Like it's essentially a patience pill. Like you're not taking it and to change you, you're taking it so you're not agitated anymore.
Hmm.
Like it takes you longer to get agitated because you're back to your original starting point. I was actually very nervous that it wasn't going to bring me back to that, and that it would essentially just like I had someone just called in there, put in, does it make me feel foggy? And that's what I was actually really nervous about, was, is it going to make me feel foggy? Is it going to make me not feel like myself? Like, I don't know if you guys drink Bang energy drinks. I do not drink Bang energy drinks anymore. I actually did for a little bit. But how it made me feel was like I was like, it was weird. And I had fulfillment rather than emotional. But as I started taking it, I recognized actually that I wasn't getting that foggy mind. It actually cleared my mind. The anxiety of kind of just everyday life, but not necessarily life of the job, but just everyday life, was not as, I don't want to say crippling, because I was still able to go through it, but it was just sat on my mind too much, was gone. But I mean, I don't know. It was very hard for me to get on, but when I got on and I waited the actual time to see if it would work, I was very happy with how it helped.
Good.
We have another comment, Jeff. It says, thank you. Your story is so relatable, and I think it's great that you share this. Congrats on your promotion. This is from Sergeant Sturba. Congrats on your promotion, and I believe while you're already a leader, you are now in a new position to inspire and encourage officers to take care of themselves. God bless. And then from Lori Grube, enjoyed it today. Thank you, Jeff and all.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any questions or comments they'd like to share? Can we call out your wife?
I don't know if she's even on. I don't know if my wife is on. I see two Jeffrey Bludworths, and I think one is my commander and the other may be my wife. I don't know.
Well, she's lovely. I've met Jeff's wife several times, and she really is lovely, as well as his children. So.
Oh, she said she's on. Did you want anything from her?
No, would you like to share something? I didn't know if she wanted to.
I told her she wasn't allowed to be mean to me.
Paul Gonzalez says, thank you for sharing. It is hard to be vulnerable, especially being a cop.
It's very true. I think that's one thing, though. Kind of a little bit about my personality was I love to do everything first. So like growing up, we would, whatever it was, I would go first. So like I was in Boy Scouts, I'm an Eagle Scout. So a lot of those things, like doing a lot of the skills or a lot of the activities, that was always what I wanted to do, was go first, because I don't know, I just wanted to be the first one to do it. And if I could do it, then hopefully everyone else could do it. Because I know I'm not the biggest and brightest and the smartest, but that I think, that's why I decided to share my story with CIT when I was approached to share my story, because everyone around me saw the changes in my life and saw how much it, essentially affected me and kind of affected what was going on. And that's one thing that I do like. I like to be able to be a little vulnerable. But like SCION has, its mission is to share the stories, because by being vulnerable and being able to share this story, we can all come together. We can smash the stigma of mental health, but also learn from one another. I think our little challenge coin says we don't heal in isolation, but we heal in community. And that's one thing that I believe in a lot, because if it wasn't for the community that was around me, my work community and my personal life community, I know for a fact, I probably wouldn't be here right now. And who knows what would have happened to me in these last few years. But I had great community to help support me and to help me heal, and something that I want to hopefully pass on to others. And so that way, even if they never share their story, but if they're able to go in and do it on their own, they get that healing that they need, and kind of hopefully break that taboo of mental health and of being able to actually take care of yourself.
I have another question for you. I know because you have done this several times, what has the response to you sharing your story been for other people that might be considering it because you've already done it? Like, what has that been like?
So number one, it's super draining. If anyone has ever shared their story, it's really draining. But a lot of it, I think, is just because it's an emotional thing, and it's something that you think about constantly. And for me, even though I'm in front of people constantly, I always get nervous. Maybe I should up some of my anxiety.
But then it's later rewarding.
Yes, but it is. Well, I was gonna finish saying that, but yes, then later it's actually really rewarding. I always feel good about what I say and my presentation. It always makes me reflect kind of where I was and where I'm at now. And then, there's usually one or two people every class that will come up to me afterwards, and they'll talk about, those are things that I'm experiencing now, or I'm starting to see myself like this, and like, what should I tell my spouse, or what should I tell my family to look out for, like that your family told you that you were doing. And so it's something that I actually always feel good about doing, and I always just feel rewarded in doing it, even if someone doesn't come up to me, because I know hopefully someone listening will actually like it and be able to say, you know what, I'm starting to see some of those in my life. Maybe I should go talk, or maybe I should look at medication or think about some new coping mechanism, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll read some of the comments. So Rebecca Weatherford says, I have had anxiety my entire life, tried therapy and other supplements, finally started medication at 39 and wished I hadn't waited so long. Changed my life for the better. Still in therapy and take supplements for other health issues, but sometimes you need actual medications. And thank you, Rebecca. Yes, I agree with not waiting so long. Alex Rahimi says, thank you, Jeff, from the recruiting unit. You're right about sharing your story. It's not done enough. If I can, you can.
And that's this logo for recruiting. So it's to get people to become officers. If I can, you can. That's where that comes from.
I like that. Rebecca says again, so nice to know we are not alone in our mental health. Charmaine Carter, thank you for choosing to share, Jeff.
I'm going to assume that's my commander.
And then the other Jeff wrote to himself. Just kidding. We think that's either his commander or his wife. It takes a lot of courage to share. Thank you for doing so.
Of course.
Well, if y'all have any last comments, go ahead and put them in. I have a couple of announcements about SCION. This is our third year we're working on now, and we have some exciting things going on. We've received a mental health grant that we're going to be using to maybe upgrade some equipment, bring on some additional staff perhaps. That's really helped secure us for at least the next 2 years. So that's very exciting. Because of that, we also need 2 years more worth of presenters. So if y'all are inspired, I know there's a lot of people on here that have already done it, and we are so grateful for y'all. If you would like to suggest someone to us, or if you yourself are interested in doing it and inspired because of what Jeff has done today, or any other presenter you've heard, I am going to be emailing out a survey, and one of the questions on that survey says, please nominate someone or put in your own information so we can contact you to schedule you for a presentation. And one thing to know about that is we don't just throw you in front of the camera blind. We will meet with you beforehand. We'll talk about what your story is and what you would like to share, and we really try and support you through the whole process.
Absolutely.
Right. And so hopefully that's been the experience that others have had. But yeah, it's not just meet us on this Thursday at 1 o'clock and then go on your own. Hopefully it's a process where you really feel supported and like you know what's happening. So anyway, we would love to have you guys come on SCION with us if that's something you're interested in, or nominate someone that you think would be great. And is there anything else?
It's on the website.
Oh yeah, go to our website, goscion.org. All of our presentations are there, our past presentations, as well as information about upcoming stuff. And I will also send resources that will include contact information for Dr. Rosenbaum. He put his number if you have additional questions for him about medications. And it has mine and Jeff's contact information. So yeah, I hope everyone has a really safe and happy Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, holiday
Hanukkah's over.
season. I hope you had a great Hanukkah. Thank you, Dr. Rosenbaum. Anyway, I will stop now. But I'm really glad y'all were here, and we're glad to have you.